Well, good afternoon, everybody. Friday, we're finally here. Welcome. For those of you who are punctual and on time, I'm going to honor your punctuality and get us started right away. It's 1 o'clock. I know most of you, some of you I don't know personally, we haven't met before. I do teach a lot of CLEs, and in the world we're in right now, I scheduled this one kind of, or I should say I switched this one up from what it was originally going to be because I believe right now we've got a big problem, especially in our industry. And as I was preparing for today and what I wanted to make sure to cover with you guys, I have 4 kids. My 8-year-old son is the one who appreciates Legos the most, and you can see there's a little Lego guy right there. This little guy right here, Green Lantern, he's gonna be our story for today because I don't really know the story of Green Lantern, but because this particular Lego guy. I don't know if you're able to see it. So there he's got his little smiley face, but I think what is the problem that I think we can't ignore is that there's another side. There's another face, and this guy actually does have 2 faces. There's a big problem in our industry, and if we don't attack this with some ferocity head on, it's gonna, I just don't know where it's gonna end up. People in our industry are shutting their practices down and laying people off left and right, and people are they're sending staff home, they're sending lawyers home, and people are losing their jobs when in a time like this right now where where the world feels to a lot of people like it's falling apart, lawyers are throwing in the towel, and we are completely giving up. I was pulling up some of the numbers, and I mean, these reports are everywhere. Above the Law, a big online source, they actually created a layoff tracker for the law firm industry. A layoff tracker. How many people are being laid off today? The ABA just published an article today about how mostly big firms, that's what they're looking at, are just slashing and burning basically their buildings down. And they are doing everything that they can to what they say is stop the bleeding. I have a very different perspective on this. Some of these numbers are just staggering. Pay reduced by 60% in March. 30% pay reductions for non-equity partners. Let's see. Two-thirds of staff laid off. 2/3 of their staff laid off. I mean, I'm looking at this list that they have on Above the Law. It goes on for pages and pages of pages where they have taken announcements that different firms have said, we're laying people off, we're cutting, this is what the policy is. And they just put this into a layoff tracker, and this thing just goes on and on and on and on. If us lawyers if we're not here during this time for people, who is? Who's gonna be there? If there's one thing I want to make sure we all walk away from today's CLE with, is a new, optimistic, renewed passion for what we do with our lives every day when we go to work, in my house and in your house, when we go to work. and that you walk out of here having 2 or 3 things that you can do this afternoon, this weekend, next week, that will be active steps to move you forward to be able to make this difference. Maybe you work in a firm that's already furloughed people. Maybe you already work in a firm or you have your own practice where you're already feeling the pinch and you're already seeing things start to decline and you're already feeling the pressure of what that's like. I get that. I've experienced enough of that myself. It's okay if you're there. I just want to tell you, we had such a surge of people sign up for this thing at the last minute. If that's you, if you feel that pressure, you're not alone. There's a lot of lawyers who are feeling that pressure. And walking away from this today, this time, this 1 hour, this 90 minutes, you're going to walk out of here with a newfound perspective of the amazing impact that you have the potential to make. And I say potential very intentionally because so many law firms, as I can read you and you can read on your own on my other screen, you can read all about how many people are just shutting their doors, laying off, shutting their doors, laying off. I've seen so many people set up an autoresponder on their email that basically says, oh, everybody who's emailing me now, I want you to know, we're freaking out, we're running for the hills, we don't know what to do next, we've lit and burned everything on fire, including our hair, and please don't call us because we're just as scared as everybody else. I've gotten, okay, those aren't the words they're putting on their autoresponder, but that's the message that's being communicated to everybody who's emailing them, is that their lawyers are as freaked out as everybody else. I want you guys to leave and close the book on this week, on a Friday, feeling optimistic about your future and knowing that you have a couple steps you can take to actually move towards that. Those are my 2 goals for today. And if in 90 minutes I can help you go from, oh my gosh, the world is crumbling around me, to, okay, I've got a couple things actually I can do to make a difference. If I can help you shift that and insulate you from staying in that mindset for at least a couple hours until the business closes, the business hours close today, so that you can ruminate in that over the weekend, and then hopefully open your books Monday morning with a renewed sense of passion, you guys will be better able to serve your clients, your communities, and your families. So those are my 2 goals for today. Our little intrepid hero, my goal is that by the end of today, his frown will go from, I don't know, it's not really a frown, he's like pissed off. Maybe I want you to be pissed off, but I want him to go from freaked out and scared to somebody who's just ready to charge forward, do the work that needs to be done, and is optimistic that there's a future in this because there's a future in this. Now, teaching CLEs remotely where I don't have everybody's faces staring at me and looking at me to give me feedback is a little hard. The dynamic is a little different. And so I've done enough of these virtual teachings to kind of remind myself that I got to keep my energy way, way up higher, a lot higher than I normally have to, just to keep myself interested, because I don't want to, if I get bored, then forget it. I'm just going to close my screen and we're done. But to keep you guys awake. So here's a couple ground rules, right? We're going to go at this until 2:30. I'm going to keep some time. We're going to reserve some time to be able to do some discussion and questions and stuff like that. The system we're using right now does have a chat box if you're on your computer. It even has it if you're on your phone. So feel free to use that. I'll do my best. I don't have anybody helping me administrate this, so I'm just self-administering that chat box. If you want to throw something out there, questions, comments, whatever, you can you just need to know they are public among this whole group. So, don't put something in there private. If you have a private comment, you can change the setting and select, just Francisco, and it'll come just to me. Also, I am recording this. We had a number of people say, I can't make the time, but I want the content. So we're recording this. We're going to save it. We're going to share it. You'll all have access to the recording. You can feel free to send it to share it with anybody that you want. I believe this qualifies as ethics for you should get 1.5 hours credit for this because of the practice management aspect that I truly believe if we don't get this right, we won't get any of it right. So we'll be sending out certificates for those of you who stick through to the end. Now, for those of you that are sharing your video, thank you. Awesome. Like the rest of you, go put your pants on, brush your hair, turn your video on, because we're in a meeting here. This is a community of people. Like we all are in this together, so let's be in this together. What I'm going to ask for those of you who are on your video or even on the chat, since I have muted everybody, I have to do that so that your feedback that's happening in your house doesn't crowd the audio here. You're gonna hear my feedback, my kids stomping around. You may hear my wife. You may hear doors. So you may hear insanity back here. But if you turn your video on and you want to give me some feedback about something, thumbs up is great. Just, a quick thumbs up. Yeah, I agree, or yep, that's good. And if you want to do like a thumbs up in the chat box, or if I'm saying something and you're like, in person, I could see your face if you're thinking like, yeah, Francisco's total BS, like that's just crap. I won't be able to see that like as clearly here, so you can always just do finger on the nose, being like, yeah, that stinks, man. I don't think so. Happy to get some feedback from you guys. Please stay awake during this Friday afternoon. So, like I don't know most of you. Let me just give you a quick bio on myself. Francisco Servant, founder of Keystone Law Firm. We're an estate planning and probate firm, Chandler, and all we do is we help people grow their wealth and we protect their wealth. And it comes in various forms, but that's really what we do. My firm in 2014, so about 6 years ago, we grossed $300,000, and last year we grossed about $1.4 million. We were rated as one of the fastest growing law firms in the state last year and in the country. Super excited about that. It doesn't make me one of the biggest firms around. I do think, though, I have one of the best firms around, but, that's just me because I love my team and I love what we do every day. We have about 14 people that work in our firm, and it's stuff like what I'm going to be sharing with you guys today in the next 90 minutes that literally has made the difference between me being stuck at what I was in 2014 versus where we've grown to today. I started my firm officially in 2007, right before the last Great Recession, and I grew every single year since then. I'm going to share this with you guys because why? Why am I going to share with you like my innermost secrets about how to grow your firms? Well, holy crap. If it's not plainly obvious to you, if you're wondering that, then let me start us off before I even get into the content with the real answer to that question. Okay, here it is. This is the practice management. This is one piece of the practice management criteria. Everybody in here? Is anybody in here, I guess I should say, drop a message in chat, raise your hand. Anybody in here worried about, or maybe not worried, but maybe concerned about where you're going to get your next client from? Anybody concerned about where am I going to get my next client? Anybody? Nobody. I don't believe you. Yeah, right? Is anybody going to disagree with me if I say we're all kind of concerned about where we're going to get our next clients from, right? I think that's a pretty common thing. We all have that concern. So, if everybody here is concerned about that, is that maybe one of our biggest concerns? I'm going to say yes, probably one of our biggest concerns. Let me teach you an insane trick that we use to generate new clients that I know everybody can implement immediately. It takes nothing more than learning how to track where your clients came from. Okay? So first, are you tracking where your clients are coming from? And every client, whether they come from a referral, what's the name, whether they come from a certain page on your website, what page? Tracking every client. We do that. Okay, my firm, we've done that. We still don't get it right, and it frustrates me to no end that we just don't have every single thing tracked down to a T, but we do our best. One of the things that I know is that 60% of our business is from referrals, and 60%. And as our firm has grown, that number, that dollar amount is much bigger than it used to be. Where do we get most of those referrals from? Well, attorneys are a big source of that, right? Title companies, elder care industry. Those are our three top ones, three top categories. And so if attorneys, and guys, this is a marketing lesson for you. If attorneys are a big source of referrals for us, do I, me, Francisco, have a vested interest in all of you guys staying in business? Yeah, I have a massive vested interest in you guys staying in business, right? Not all of you are referral partners with my firm. If that's appropriate, I'd be happy to do that. But some of you are, and a lot of people who are going to watch this recording are. And so I have a highly, highly, highly vested interest in helping you stay in business, helping you grow your business through this thing. Because even if you've ever only referred us one case over the last 10 years, that's one case I don't want to have to lose over the next 10 years. Why does that matter? Well, because my family is here, right? Your family is here. Shauna's given us her little boy who's just adorable, right? We all would do anything to take care of our families. I want your firms to be more successful at the end of this thing than they are now, than they are before it started. I absolutely believe we're going to look back at this as a before COVID, after COVID situation. It's like before 9/11, after 9/11. I truly believe it. Everybody that I've talked to about this has never seen our government do something like this. And I believe there's going to be a massive before, after. The world is never going to be the same. So I am proactively trying to invest in you to make sure you are more successful as we go through this. I'm going to be sharing a ton of how to implement some of these things with your practice. All right? Okay. I personally believe that attorneys are not just a profession. I have to kind of confess, I went into this as a profession because I was just looking for a good job that I'd be able to provide security to my family and made decent money. Like I honestly, I didn't have this like calling that some people have about wanting to serve the public and serve people as a lawyer. I wanted to serve people no matter what I did in life, and I thought, oh, lawyers, they seem like they have good jobs, like they do good things, I'll be a lawyer. And it wasn't this higher calling, but I quickly learned that, oh my gosh, lawyers are sometimes the last line of defense for people. And so I very quickly understood how sacred it was, the job that we hold and the opportunity that we hold. Well, I believe that we are best for our clients when we are best, healthy, and optimistic, and when we can look into the future and convey a message that lifts people up when we are leading them through the tough times. And I believe that right now, we as lawyers, whether we want it or not, everybody around you, your staff, your clients, your family, your extended family, they all kind of look to lawyers and are like, oh, there's a lawyer who said this. For some reason, we get a little bit more credence. And so we've got to choose to step into that and lead people through this with some optimism, some realistic expectations, but we've got to be the leaders. And knowing that, I then look at what I see is happening with all these law firms around us. I have personal friends who were laid off instantly. March 13th, I think that was the Friday when this exploded. Literally, they went into work March 13th, fired, boom, laid off. And that was it. It's so hard to not be down. I mean, it just is. There are mornings that I've woken up and I'm not feeling it, right? I'm just not feeling it. I want to give you guys a framework to be able to flip that switch in your mind, to be able to get out of that funk. Because when the media is just pounding down that everything is negative, everything, is just in despair, the world is crashing down around us, and we see these unemployment numbers that we've never seen before. 6 million people apply in 1 week. I mean, it's hard to stay up. It's hard to stay above that noise and to be consistently pounding at what you're passionate about and pushing for solutions to that. So what I want to share with you guys is something that I didn't learn until I was in my mid-30s. It has to do with how our brains are biologically and chemically bound together. So this first part, I'm going to teach you guys something that really I have no qualifications to teach you on, other than I learned it and I've lived it for almost 5.5 years, and it's made a gigantic difference in my life. And I know as lawyers, we struggle to hear things that are not just the media, the bar, everything's crashing, everything's crumbling, oh my gosh. So let's dive into this. All right, here's the cool thing here's one cool, I want you guys to understand this framework, okay? Now, I'm not a neurologist, I'm not a brain scientist. My undergrad degree is in biosystems engineering, but I don't think that qualifies me any better for this. So we have to understand something about how our brains work, okay? There are different types of brain waves that they have been able to map. I mean, that's what they do, these EKGs or I don't know, right? Brain wave measurements, okay? There are these delta waves that happen when we're asleep, when we're like way not really operating at anything. And then there are all the way to the highest frequency waves on your conscious thoughts, which are called your beta waves. So from delta all the way up to beta. I don't know why they go in that order, but that's what it is. Okay. Now, they've also measured how these brain waves pattern over our lifetime, right? So at different stages of life. And what they find is that from birth until around 2 years old, that's where our lowest brain waves, the lowest frequency brain waves, are most active. That's where the delta waves are really forming. And so that's where, and that's kind of just establishing the fundamental biological pathways for our bodies to function, and we're learning, communication skills and all these basic levels of existence, so we can just survive, right? There's not much, with those delta waves, we're not judging what's happening around us in our environment. We're just, it's just happening, right? We're not casting judgment on it. We're not rejecting it. It's just all going into our delta waves. Our delta waves are forming around us. When we hit about 2 years old, our brain waves shift into what they call theta waves. And that's about 2 to 5 or 6. So they're saying those are higher frequency brain waves. And that's where we start to see connections with things like imagination, more communication, more understanding of communication. And so accepting communication into our brain. And so, like if you've had kids, you see, like, as they get older, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're starting to have more conversations with them. My 8-year-old, he was having a conversation with my wife last night about how he's watching a YouTube video explaining how inflation is going to impact his allowance. And as inflation goes up, this is really cute, right? As inflation goes up, the value of the dollar he gets for his allowance is actually going down. And my wife's like, you're supposed to be doing homework. And he's like, yeah, the homework is too easy, Mom. And she's like, well, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just watching YouTube. Well, you can't watch YouTube, go do your homework. He's like, well, I'm learning this on YouTube. And she's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, YouTube. Good job, buddy. Good job, Zach. He's 8. So what they're finding when you're getting past that 6, 7, 8 years old is that they're entering into what are called alpha waves. And this is where the analytical portions of our brain are starting to form and connect. And that's where we're starting to like connect concepts together and kind of cast judgment on things and even come up with a little bit of our sense of humor, and those things are starting to form in that alpha wave zone, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And then after that, 8, 12, and then beyond, that's where the beta waves start to really develop. I found this fascinating because as I was preparing for this, what I'm going to share with you guys has nothing to do really with the scientific research. It has to do with just a construct somebody came up with and said, hey, here's an idea. But it's pretty cool because now we see that there's some scientific framework for what I'm about to show you guys is actually going to support. Our little guy here, what's his name? Green Lantern. So our little guy, Green Lantern, let me see where the camera is. I think we've got the camera going. Yeah, okay. So our little guy, Green Lantern, is that his happy face? That's his happy face. All right, Mr. Green Lantern. Can everybody see that? Yeah? Okay. Mr. Green Lantern, he's actually got a body with no head also, right? Everybody remember that as a kid? We could take their heads off, right? He's got a body with no head. The construct that I want to share with you guys, I want to help you think of this imaginary way of pulling your head off of your body. So I'm gonna pull my screen up, and we're gonna go through. Let's see. We're gonna go through a little bit of ugly artwork by Francisco. Let's see here. Start the screen. Okay. Should be live on the screen. Somebody give me a thumbs up or something and let me know that we've got a yellow screen up. Okay. So let me close that down. Okay. All right, so here's the deal. If you could take your head off of your body, or before you even get to that point, you've got your head, or you've got at least part of your head. What this, this brainwave research is showing is that all the way up to about 5, maybe 6, maybe 7, maybe 8, our brain is cast in this way where everything's just pouring right into it. Okay? And it's really our fundamental subconscious beliefs that are forming right here during that time period. And we've all seen studies, we've all heard research about how you can take a child from a very young age and you can brainwash them into very damaging beliefs. Well, fundamentally, we know this is where their beliefs live. This is fundamentally where when a child's beliefs are formed, is in that stage, right? Because from birth and hopefully through the rest of their life, in good circumstances, that child is being fed with the beliefs of their parents. You know, things like, I love you, you're a good boy, you're a good girl, your daddy loves you, the world is round, and other just fundamental beliefs that get fed in, and like these brainwaves show, don't get filtered out. And so all those beliefs, they end up tucked down in here in this little subconscious part of our brain that we don't even know really forms. We don't know that even really forms because we're too young to know that we can reject it, that we can cast judgment on it. We don't. Our brains just don't. Our brains don't cast judgment on it. And so because they don't cast judgment on it, it all goes in there and becomes our fundamental beliefs, okay? So what does that mean? Well, it means, let's say, about 7 years old, it says that the rest of our brain, man, my brain is hideous. It says that the rest of our brain, it starts to kind of form, right? And at that point, 7, 8, what are they called? The alpha waves. Those alpha waves are forming that let us start to filter what we're seeing. Well, that's when the subconscious part of our brain is kind of stopped. We're not going to change that anymore. Okay, our brain is now going to start developing the analytical side, the critical side, the side that that develops more societal interaction, right? And so that's done at about 7 years old. Well, if that's true, then Mr. Green Lantern here, okay, he was just a walking around zombie up until about 7 years old, and then his brain popped out, okay? Then he got his brain, or he got his whole head, I should say. He got his whole head at about 7. So what happens though? What happens with some of us in that time period before 7 years old happens? We get fed with a lot of things, right? You know, a whole lot of beliefs get formed at that time, and they all get mixed together, and they don't necessarily all mean that they're connected to one another, but our brain doesn't know the difference. It's a subconscious belief. So that as we grow into adulthood, those subconscious beliefs do feed into our reactions. They feed into whether, you know, how we see the world, right? We all know that the way you're raised is going to impact how you see the world. And that's just what I want to start there with, because how we were raised is going to shape how we see the current world that we're in, okay? So if we're in this chaotic, crazy world of chaos with COVID, what does that mean? How are we going to see the world? I don't know. We're going to see the world however we were raised to see the world, whatever those fundamental beliefs say we see the world from. What I want to give you guys is permission to pretend, okay, like your fundamental beliefs that you don't even know exist. These aren't the conscious beliefs we choose as adults that, you know, that form our identity as adults. These are subconscious beliefs of those little stories we hear, you know, that usually creep up in the form of fear and anxiety. I want to give us permission to say that feeling actually isn't me. It's not necessarily me. That piece of anxiety is my zombie subconscious body. Let me draw the rest of the body for you. And you should be able to still see my screen, my video there somewhere, so you can see me giving you the Lego guy demonstration. It's my zombie body walking around mindlessly telling me what to do, what I should be scared of, what I should be afraid of, why that thing is scary and fearful. Because here's what happens. Our zombie body, our subconscious mind that is formed when we were 7 years old, you know what its sole purpose is? It has one purpose. It only has one purpose and no other purpose. The only thing it is trying to do is keep us safe, period. That is it. Your subconscious mind, it's like your lizard brain. All its job is keep Francisco alive, keep you safe. Something bad, something scary is unsafe, we must avoid it. That's just the purpose of how our brains form. The first formation steps of it are keep you alive, keep you safe. And it makes sense that we were created that way, right? Keep us alive, keep us safe. We want to be alive and safe. Then we can start to have the higher functions of analytics and critical thinking and communication skills. Keep you safe is first, okay? If that's what our subconscious mind is doing, and think about it, it's working right now while we're all sitting here. It's working when we're thinking about client matters. It's working while we're interacting with our family. It's also working while we're asleep because it's our subconscious mind, and they can measure that those things are happening while we're asleep. It's literally working 24/7 without your input, without your permission. And if we think about it as this kind of separate entity that just lives in there for some reason, I don't know why it's in there, but if we think about it as this separate object that isn't me, then we can use that to our advantage, okay? We can use that to take proactive and healthy steps and positive steps. So take this as an example, okay? If you're, for those of you who have kids, or you maybe have maybe a sibling, maybe you have niece or nephews, or you have grandkids, or you know somebody who has had little kids, here's how I think of this subconscious mind and how it works in a weird analogous way. Think of a toddler, right, who's just starting to learn to walk, right? What do? You know, they're super unsteady, right? They're just like wobbly all over the place, right? But they get a little better, right? They can walk pretty confidently. They can't really run. The floor is uneven. They're going to trip, that kind of stuff. So imagine they're right at that stage. And imagine you are with your spouse or your sibling, or, you know, and you're on the porch, front of the house. It's not COVID lockdown. It's just regular. You know, we're sitting outside enjoying the beautiful weather. And toddler's sitting right here in your lap. Right? If you are acting as the subconscious and the toddler is you in this example, is the toddler safe? Like, that's maybe the safest place my kids could be, is in my lap, right? And so with the toddler in your lap, there's nothing, you know, I'm subconscious, I'm thinking you're safe, I'm good. My alarm bells aren't going off, right? Well, if the toddler starts wiggling and like, let me go, let me go, let me go. I want to get down. I want to move. Well, okay, you know, you let him down, set him onto the patio, and I'm still, as the subconscious, you know, as the parent, I'm okay. They're safe. They're right here. If something happened, I can reach out and grab them. Good, fine. If they start to take a few steps away, they start to, you know, head toward the stairs. Me as the parent, me as the subconscious, I'm a little worried because there's stairs over there. They don't know how to navigate stairs. What am I going to do? Well, you know, if I'm the parent, I'm going to say, hey, watch out. I'm going to warn them. I'm going to holler at them. I'm going to maybe grab them, right? I'm going to do something. I'm going to try to stop them, right? If I'm bolted to my seat, that's about all I can do. If I'm not bolted to my seat, I might be able to get up and go help them. Well, imagine they they get down the stairs and they're actually headed out towards, say, the street, right? What is your subconscious mind? What are you as the parent going to do as they're running out towards the street? Well, I'm gonna be screaming. I'm gonna be yelling. I'm gonna be hollering. I'm gonna be running after them. I'm gonna do whatever I can, right, to make sure that they don't get to the street. Well, if I don't get to them in time, and they get to the edge of the street, and there's cars coming, and it's all bearing down on that moment, me as the parent, or me as the subconscious in this example, I'm going to be freaking out. I'm going to be screaming and hollering and cussing and yelling. I might even start throwing things. I mean, I'm going to do everything I can to bear down on them that this is unsafe. I mean, I will lie. I will cheat. I will steal. I will knock people over. I will bust through crowds. I will hurt old ladies. I mean, the parent, the subconscious, will act in the same way, but guess what? Just like you as a parent, your zombie body, subconscious, going around with its whatever, alpha waves or whatever, saying, I gotta keep you safe, is gonna chase after you when it thinks you aren't safe, and it's gonna tell you whatever it needs to in order to make you feel safe. Okay? Now, hold that thought for a second. What do we know about feeling safe? I'm going to challenge you guys on this one, because you all meet with clients and you meet with prospective clients, and in those meetings, these people are holding you, or giving you, I should say, their most sacred problem in their life, for you to hold it tenderly in your hands and respectfully take care of it, right? They are feeling unsafe. So what do we know about the feeling of safety? Well, one of the things we know, there's probably a lot of things we know. One of the things we know is that safe, oftentimes, is very much the same thing, or I should say, it's set up as the same thing to be equivalent to familiarity, familiar. Okay? Safe is what's familiar. What's familiar is basically, usually, what is comfortable. It's what is comfortable. Sometimes, okay, I'm probably not the only one who has sat across the table from a potential client and they describe to you a nightmare that they're going through. And you know exactly what to do in your mind to solve the problem. I'm sure I'm not the only one. In your mind, you've already solved this thing. We got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. We can fix this. And it's a nightmare they're living. And then what do? And then they don't hire you and they don't solve that problem. Why? Because something about that problem is more comfortable, it's more familiar, which their subconscious has convinced them it's safer than changing to do the uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and now what does that mean? That is unsafe. So, and they don't take that action. You know in your mind it's easy. All I got to do is file this, draft that, send a letter, do this, and yeah, it's going to be a pain in the butt to go through, or maybe not, and we'll fix it. And they choose not to do it. They choose their situation that in their mind somewhere, they're comfortable with what it is because it's familiar and it's safe. Their subconscious is like screaming at them, don't go into the street. don't step into the street. There's cars coming. You're going to get killed. And so they stay safe. Even if that situation is way worse off. Because that's one of the things we know about the feeling of safety, it's easier for us to just stay there in safety, even if it's not better for us, right? We see this with our clients. You have to acknowledge that you see this with your clients. They're in this spot. They need to go here. They just won't do it. The fundamental reason is because this to them feels safer. It's more comfortable. It's more familiar. And thereby, this thing that's less familiar, that seems less comfortable, is unsafe, and they will create all kinds of mental hurdles to connect a reason why or an excuse why they stay. Lawyers, brethren, people here who are in this sacred profession with me, we are not exempt from this hard-coded wiring in our brain, I promise you. That's why I'm teaching you this construct. Whether you want to sort of grasp the deepest, darkest, ugliest pieces of this construct or not, let yourself be open-minded to just like, hey, if this maybe is true, I can play with this idea. Like, I've got a zombie brain and I've got my real brain. There's two of those. The real one is the one that I want. The zombie brain is the one that's telling me to be scared and to be afraid. The decisions that have caused so many law firms and lawyers to either shut their doors, to chase their clients away with email autoresponders that say, hey, we're running around with our hair on fire. Those decisions are born out of fear and not out of being the leaders that our communities so desperately want us to be. They're not born out of, they're born out of fear. They're not born out of, we're going to do whatever it needs to take, right? We're going to do whatever it takes. Okay. So that's the construct of where safety keeps us from seeing what is truly possible, right? Because if you could actually open a client's mind to see that the solution is better than all the things that they've come up with in their mind, they would make the choice. They would make the jump. But when a client says, no, I got to think about it, that means they're still living, they want to stay with what's comfortable. They want to stay with what's familiar. They want to stay with what's safe. And in this new world of post-COVID or mid-COVID, I guess, we don't get to say we can just do what's safe anymore. We just don't. We don't get to say that. All the rules about what's safe, they got thrown out with 6 million people filing for unemployment. They got thrown out with law firms laying people off in droves. They got thrown out with events being canceled left and right so that we can't, do client happy hours and we can't get people together. They got thrown out when restaurants got shut down, so I can't invite you to do coffee or lunch, and I can't network like I used to. The safe things, they're not really safe. That's the truth, and that's what we've got to own as lawyers who are going to lead people through this. So separate the idea of your safety driving your decisions, because safety doesn't come in the number of new clients that are coming in the door. Safety doesn't come from the number of dollars that are coming into the door. Safety doesn't come from any of those things. Safety comes from what you can do to change the people around you. That's where safety comes from. All right. So let me make sure I got that. Okay, I hit all those points. Let me just look at my notes to make sure I covered what I wanted to in that part, because that's a big deal. We've got to get that. Okay, now here's where we go with that. Okay, we've got our, let's see, am I on? All right, let me go back to my my video view here. Okay, we've got our zombie, right? Our subconscious zombie marching around, just trying to keep us safe, no matter what. We've got your brain. You put your brain on the zombie, okay? The brain on your zombie is an acknowledgement, okay, that anytime you feel anxiety, for me, it comes up as anxiety. That's how I feel my zombie body trying to derail my plans and my family. It's anxiety. Maybe for you, it's frustration. Maybe it's fear. Just you're scared. Maybe it's, you know, money stuff. When money stuff gets hard, maybe it's, you know, staff members or employees or clients, you know, complaining about stuff. I don't know, whatever it is, there's some emotion that triggers you, and it's different for all of us. And no, I'm sorry, law school, graduation, and passing the bar did not cure you of this at all. I think in a lot of ways, honestly, it ingrains it more. But for whatever it is, you can watch out for that trigger by knowing it's going to come. Okay? Your zombie body is going to come for you. You just get to now watch out for it. Mine comes on as anxiety. I know exactly what the emotion is, and as soon as I start feeling it, I'm like, oh, my zombie's coming. Don't let that become you. You don't have to let that become you, because you can just say, huh, that isn't me. That's my zombie body. Okay, yeah, I feel it. Yep, totally feel it. Wow. Seriously, where's the bad one? Remember, I showed you at the beginning, he has two faces. The bad face, right? Wow, I totally am feeling that. Ha ha ha, big time. I really feel that anxiety, that frustration. I'm mad, I'm scared, I want to crawl in a hole. Should I up my life insurance? You know, for real, right? That, you can acknowledge that. And you have to acknowledge those feelings. They're real. They're inside of your body. They're inside your brain. Acknowledge it. And then observe it. That's what I switch to. I try to just switch to observing it by saying, huh, my actual me, I'm watching my zombie body go through a meltdown right now. Huh. And I literally just watch it. And that separates me, who I think I am, who I want to be, you know, a good husband, a devoted father, you know, it lets me take the good qualities of me and use those to watch and observe kind of the anxiety that's happening. When I get to separate those, when I remember to separate those, it lets me breathe, right? It lets me breathe. It keeps this from squashing the good stuff. It lets the good stuff stick around and show up. And it lets this continue to operate, right? It lets it continue to get stuff done, to take care of my family, to pour into my staff, to watch out for my clients. It lets me continue to it lets me be here to give you guys this message, because if I was cowering back in that corner over there, sobbing in a mess of anxiety, I wouldn't be sharing this with you. And it lets me observe it, even though I can't actually take my head off of my body and observe it. I'm all connected, but I can observe it. And while I do that, my good part, it pulls away from that anxious part. And that critical moment is what lets me then move forward faster, right? We all eventually do get over those negative feelings, but this lets me get over it faster. And so I encourage you guys to do that, because now I want you, if you're going through an anxious or frustrated or fearful time right now, try to pull that away, because what I want to switch to now is using this as an exercise to make those next steps, okay? Because as leaders who, and I'm sorry, you're a lawyer means you're a leader. Whether you're an associate attorney at a big firm, whether you're a sole practitioner, whether you're a partner at a small firm, it doesn't matter. You're a leader. People look to you for guidance. They look to you. If you're running around freaking out, guess who you have influence over? Everybody around you. They're going to run around and freak out because they're seeing you freak out. Your staff's going to freak out. Your coworkers are going to freak out. Your family's going to freak out. We've got to be the leaders who aren't freaking out. It's the duty I believe we're given. So take a breath, separate those feelings, those negative feelings that are probably coming down deep from your subconscious somewhere, and observe it for a moment, and then let's put together some plans that you can take to make yourself, to give yourself a couple steps you can take immediately that will put you in the position of getting back to falling in love with this profession. There are 0 practice areas that can't help right now. I have spent so much time thinking about how, what practice area is out there right now that legitimately should shut their doors. And I cannot think of one. Estate planning? Yeah, people are worried about their health right now, so this is a good time for that. Probate? Yeah, people are having more health issues and they weren't prepared, so we have to help deal with the probate issues. Family law. You know what? When you stick a failing marriage, lock them up together in their house, is there going to be more problems or less? I don't know. I don't really think that, some people are saying that there's automatically going to be more marital problems right now. I don't know if I would jump onto that thought, but I would say that the number of people who were going to get divorced anyway is probably just accelerating. Criminal defense. So much more crime right now. Domestic violence. Maybe less DUIs, I guess. But, the number of domestic violence calls is just up through the roof right now. Child abuse is up. So there's going to be, criminal defense there. Bankruptcy. Of course, people are going to have more financial troubles right now. Business law. Businesses are struggling. They need their trusted advisors to come in and tell them, hey, let me help you think through some issues. Employment attorneys, both sides, right? For employees and employers. Employees are getting fired and having causes of action because they got fired incorrectly. Employers are having to go through really scary employment decisions right now that they need better protection from. Immigration. Holy cow. Do you want to be stuck on lockdown in a third world country, or do you want to be stuck on lockdown in America? I think I'll choose America. Yeah, let's go to America. Or we're already here, we're not leaving, and we better get things straightened out so we're not deported. What other practice areas are there? I don't know. I just personally believe that it is that there's the logical conclusion that every practice area should be just as busy as it is now as it was a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months ago. And that it is us, the lawyers, who are casting out messages saying, nah, we're not busy, we're not taking new clients, we're slow, we can't help. And we're not saying those exact words, but we're casting that that's the message that's being received. When you set up an email responder saying, we're not in the office, whatever, people are just, oh, wow, they can't help. Okay, they move on. We're here to help people. And during a crisis, we're really here to help people. So we've got to dig in and be better leaders now than we ever were. Okay, so what can we do? What can you do? Okay, I'm going to take you guys through a very simple doesn't mean easy, simple exercise to come up with, and I'm just going to say 1 or 2, not 5 or 10. Trust me, 1 or 2. Come up with 1 or 2 things that you can do and be done this afternoon, maybe this weekend. I'm not sure if you want to work this weekend, or set yourself up to do it Monday. Here's how we figure this out. I'm not going to do this. I mean, we'll have about 15 minutes at the end where I can do questions and answers. But let me walk you through this so that each of you can figure this out, okay? What is your goal? This is where we start. What is your goal? Because if you don't know what your goal is, hang on, I want to make sure my screen is good. Okay. Just come on. Okay. I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see it easily. Let's go even bigger. All right. What is your goal? Now, what do I mean by that? I'm going to have you guys put together, pull out a sheet of paper, or you can do this on your computer. If you do, I recommend you do this in one of these Post-it note type programs, because I think this needs to live in front of you for a couple days. And so if you want to write it on paper, sometimes it's easier just to carry around or leave on your desk right in front of you. What is your goal? I think that there's at least 2 areas where you should grab your brain and force itself to make a decision. Okay? Your time and your money. I believe all of you have a healthy professional goal that you want to help people with your practice. And so I don't think it'll be useful in 30 minutes to try to help figure out, if you're thinking, I have to change my practice area, I hate what I do, I think I'm destroying people's lives, then you've got to make a decision there too. But it's a little bit concrete for me to focus on these 2 areas because you can make some quick, easy changes here. Okay. Your time. So where do you want to spend your time? This is kind of a simple question. What's your goal about spending your time? It kind of comes down to with regard to work versus family. Or you could do work, family, hobbies. You could break it up however you want. But at least work and family. Right now, with all of us working from home, it gets kind of hard to step out of the office. I know it does for me. I continuously drift back into the office in the evenings. But how much time do you want to give to your work? How much time do you want to give to your family? Maybe you aren't quite balancing that like you want to. So what's your goal there? Okay. The second thing is, what are your dollar goals? Maybe you have a goal to, get paid this much money every month from your firm, take this much home every paycheck, or maybe it's about, top line revenue for your firm as a business. Money, right? What are those goals? How much do you want to bring in this week, next month, that kind of stuff. So what is that for you? I would write that down really quickly. You have to start with what do you want? And because if you don't start there, you're going to end up in the wrong place. I just had a client. So we do probate litigation also, and that includes when somebody's in a guardianship case, as well as after death, if there's litigation around a will or trust or some kind of estate. And sometimes the first thing we do when we have a new piece of litigation is we send out a demand letter to whoever, right? The other parties or whatever it is. We just send out a letter like, hey, can we please resolve this without going to court? You know, here's bullet points on our what we think would be a reasonable resolution. So we had a case, we did that with them, and it got to the end of kind of that stage where we got to the end and it wasn't really resolved. We got a little bit of momentum, a little bit of traction, but we didn't really get them everything that they wanted. And at the end of that, it was, okay, we either file suit, we either file a formal challenge, or we don't. And immediately the clients were just like, yep, file it. You know, rush off, file the lawsuit. Let's knock this thing dead. We want to, you know, we still want to go after what we said at the beginning. And in their minds, right, it was, that was the path. That was the sort of the foregone conclusion. What us as counselors, what we should do is we should sit down with somebody and counsel them through that decision so that they know what reality is, right? Truly, what does the future look like? We are the ghost of Christmas future. Hey, if you do this, here's what is most likely to happen. I'm not on a crystal ball, but I can pretty much tell you because I've helped lots of people do this. If you choose that, then it's going to be this. And so it was interesting because I had to have that conversation with these clients 3 different times because they weren't, I could tell, they weren't really understanding what that goal in their mind looked like. And so I kept drilling and digging, like, no, okay, I hear that you want this, but why do you want that? What's that going to accomplish for you? How is that going to change your life? When this is all over and you got this, are you going to be able to say, we're so glad you got that for us, Francisco? And I had to literally do that 3 different times and then spell it out for them in writing. Here is what you're going to most likely end up with. Is that a result? Is that really truly your goal? Or are you just, you know, ramped up and we're in the fights, we're going to keep fighting mode? And they ended up saying, wow, actually, no, we really don't want that. That's not our goal. Our goal is, you know, this. And so they chose not to pursue it. So don't think that this exercise of what is your goal is not time well spent. Imagine if I wouldn't have spent that time with those clients. Have you ever gotten clients way down the road in an ugly, contentious situation and the client blames you for all of it? Yeah, if you've done enough cases, you've had it happen, and it feels terrible because the client is actually blaming you now. Not the other party, not the situation that they initially brought to you. They're blaming you, blaming me. And so stopping and pausing and doing some hard thinking on what is your goal is the most valuable use of your time. So spend a couple minutes and just think, how do I really want to spend my time? Or what is really the money that I need or want to make or want to save or whatever? What is that? And take a moment, write down a couple things. And in this, you know, the world we're in, like, you know, there's pre-COVID, there's post-COVID. I think we're still in mid-COVID. It feels like goals and things change daily. I know for me, sometimes it feels like 3 times a day I'm tearing up my business plan and rewriting it completely. And even this morning, you know, we're tearing things apart and rewriting it again. But we still have to do the planning. We still have to do the hard thinking. So what is that goal for you that you don't have, you want to get? You want this to be true. Okay, I'm going, so take a minute while you do that. I don't really think we have time. Maybe we have time. Okay, we have time. I'm going to declare we have time. Okay, if I give you guys a little extra kind of little bonus drawing. All right. So when you're looking at your goals, I wasn't going to do this, but I think this will be helpful. When you're thinking about your goals, like here's where I am, and here's a goal. I want to, whatever. It could be with fitness, it could be with money, it could be with relationships, it could be with spirituality stuff, your faith, it could be with anything. You are standing here where you are, right? This is me now, right? I'm here. Whatever this is made up of, all these different data points, this is me now. And here's where I want to be. Woo, this is me. This is what I want to be, right? I want to be whatever, fill in the blank. And that's something you're looking forward to. What I've experienced in life is that, and Simon Sinek writes a very short, easy to read, and just a book that gives you an idea that will stick with you, which is useful. It's not like a practical, here's how to go to make your life better. It's just a concept that lets you think. The book is called The Dip. The Dip. Totally recommend it. Get it. You'll be done. It's like an hour read at most. It's another way of looking at what I'm going to describe here. If this is where you're at and this is where you want to be, you've got a bunch of changes that need to make to get there. Obviously, because this is where I'm at. Now remember, back where we talked about our subconscious mind, it's trying to do? It's trying to keep us safe, remember? Big old safe word. Well, what did we also safe means? It means familiar and it means comfortable. Well, on this picture, which part of this screen is familiar and comfortable? It's the now. If this is where you say you want to be, but this is not where you are, what does that mean? If this is comfortable, if this is safe, this is comfortable, and this is familiar, what does that mean this is? Your goal is, by definition, it's uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar, and guess what? Your subconscious, is going to say it's unsafe. Interesting, right? For me, this helped a lot because it let me see how my brain is basically keeping me from reaching my goals, keeping me from being the real husband I want to be, from being the real father I want to be, from being the real business owner and leader that I want to be. My own brain is sabotaging it. So, be careful when you set out for these big, giant goals. A safer way to do it is to set these incremental goals that are smaller steps, right? Your mind won't be so scared of the change from here to here, okay? It won't be that scared by it. And then you can hang out here for as long as you want. And then if you want to go from there to there, you can, and your mind won't be so scared about it. That's how traditional education works, right? We spend a year in each grade. It's super freaky scary the first day. Second day is a little better. Third day is a lot better. Fourth, fifth, each day gets infinitely better until, a month in, we're like, this is old news. And by the end of the year, we're just like begging to move on. That's how traditional education works. So incremental changes do not set off all those firing synapses in your brain that say, no, you can't go from here to here because fill in the blank with all of the reasons why not. Okay? So pick a small incremental change that is your goal for next week. What's your goal for next week? You want to collect some dollars for your business? You want to spend some certain amount of time portioned among this thing or that thing? Great. Make that your next week goal. And then I'm going to walk you through a money example and some strategies, actually. let me get back to no more screen here. If you have a goal to spend time on certain things, okay, what's the first thing you need to do that, to make that happen? I know for me, it's getting my calendar open and chunk, 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 blocking it out. If it's blocking out time for work and play, it's literally blocking it out. And then, am I going to be honest and truthful to following that? I better. So look for your calendar. If it's a time thing, you can set it up however you want. You're in complete control of your calendar. You just got to open that bad boy, put it on there, stick to it. Money. I know for a lot of firms right now, cash flow is king. Cash flow is always king. You got to pay your bills. It is it's like fuel for a car. There's got to be a reservoir. There's got to be a system that gets it down to the engine, and there's got to be the exhaust, that pushes it out, that pushes out the waste. So I'm going to spend a few minutes here talking about cash flow and some things that we found are just, these are not rocket science. These are not big secrets, sorry, but they work, and it's annoying because sometimes I just don't want to go back to these and work it. But these are 3 things we're doing right now to beef up our cash flow. I realized, when was it? Was it this week? Oh, it was this week. I just can't remember if it was, I think it was Wednesday. I realized that I had the last almost month, about 3 weeks, I had been putting together and spending the vast majority of my time and my efforts and my attention on things that are going to grow our firm like a wildfire in the future, like insane growth, okay? That's going to happen because of all of this COVID stuff. I've been building and putting together things and just, whereas I would normally launch one new giant thing a quarter, I launched 5 or 6 in the last 3 weeks, and it's just going to be massive, right? But it's going to be massive, I don't know, like maybe 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now. And I've been sort of having my head up here in these big plans, and the last 3 weeks I completely neglected like what was right in front of me, which is the gas, right? And so, my firm administrator Wednesday, it was Tuesday, she's like, hey, so here's what you've been doing. I need you to get your head in the game on like right now. Like, what are we doing right now? And so, I need to shift. So we have had some cash flow issues the last few weeks partially because my head has been up here hitting these big plans. Now I'm back into the mode of, okay, no, grit. We got to do these fundamentals. So here's the fundamental things we do to make sure we hit our cash flow needs. Number 1, AR, accounts receivable. Okay, not every firm has accounts receivable. I'm going to argue most firms have some accounts receivable. Here's how we process through our accounts receivable. We don't do hourly work. So almost all of our cases are flat fees paid up front. We have a few cases we get paid at the end. And so, we have a couple tiny little hourly matters. So for us, accounts receivable looks very different than just pulling up like an accounts receivable list and starting to call people. That's not how we get to do it. If you're an hourly firm and you have an accounts receivable report you just pull up and you've got like bills that people owe you money on, trust me, that is your fastest way to cash flow, because guess what? When you collect those dollars, you don't have to do more work. I mean, you're not obligated to do more work. Maybe you're on a case and you can't get out, but that is money in the door for work that was already done. So that's the first place we go to, is accounts receivable. And we sometimes play with that. You know, when we used to have more hourly cases on that had AR, we used to reverse sort it by the biggest down to the smallest and start from the top down. It's funny because sometimes for me, I need to start with the small ones. They sort of get me ramped up and going, and I collect a few small ones and I get in a good rhythm. Whatever it takes, right? You just got to start hammering through those. And basically the conversation that you're having with each of those, it might just be, hey, can we charge your card if you have a card on file? If it's not that, then what you're having is a conversation about how is it better for you, the client, to pay me for my past bill than it is for you to keep the money in your pocket. You're having another conversation to resell yourself. I mean, really, that's what you have to do. And so a couple strategies with that is, you know, you certainly have the lever of, hey, if you don't pay us, we're going to withdraw from your matter and you're going to be on your own. And what means, you know, what that's going to mean is you're going to end up with a worse result most likely because fill in the blank with your practice area. You have that, right? But, you know, maybe that motivates them or maybe it doesn't. I know sometimes that is enough, but sometimes it doesn't. The other thing you can do, which we've done successfully, is, hey, look, you owe us, you know, there's a flyer. You owe us this, right? You owe us $1,000. You owe us $1,000. Obviously, we can't do any more work for you until you get caught up on that. But we really like you. We really think you're a great client. We would really like to do more work for you because we see that you still have this problem. It's not quite fixed yet. Do you agree? Yeah, I agree. So, and you like working with us, right? Yeah, I like working with you guys. Okay, so can you and I spend a few minutes just working out some creative way for you to be able to get this paid and for us to get, you know, some assurances that we're going to be paid for future work so that we can get this process started and get things going. And, you know, they'll, sure, well, what ideas do you have? So here's a couple ideas. Number one, you know, see if they can open a new credit card, right? I hope you all take credit cards. It's just the easiest way to make sure you get paid for your work. And then get it into LawPay or another system where you can charge it automatically for future work with the client's verbal consent or their signed consent. Second, at that moment, offer them something. Offer them a little bonus that doesn't really cost you anything for paying their old bill and getting started right away. Maybe you say, hey, look, I've got a handful of clients that are going through the same type of case you are right now. You know, I know a lot of people are worried and stressed and even a little bored at home. Tell you what, if you take care of this bill today, I'm going to get all of you and invite all of you to a 2-hour teleconference or a 1-hour teleconference or whatever next week, and where I'm literally just going to go through strategy after strategy after strategy, and I'm just going to download and dump as much as I can that I think will really help all of you guys make a better, you know, have a better life. You can come up with something that your clients would appreciate and offer them that as a bonus in a way that leverages you, so that way you aren't taking away from other productive effort, okay? Or something else, right? If there's something else that you can offer that's of value to them, don't offer, you know, your law firm coffee mug, something of value to them that they might really like right now, okay? Come up with something, and that isn't going to cost you a bunch to deliver. And then the other ways that we've been able to accelerate some of this is with PayPal credit. They have a, if you have a PayPal business account, you can sign up to offer their credit, essentially their client customer lending services, and you just send the client to it. They fill out a PayPal application, and like it just goes through instantly. So recommend that to anybody. There's fees obviously with that, but it's way better to collect your fees, to collect your AR minus a little transaction fee than it is to not collect it at all. Hit your AR, hit it hard. That is where you should focus first thing on. The second amazing, awesome strategy that is not at all mind-breaking, earth-shattering. It's a little mind-numbing, but it's kind of fun once you do a couple of them, is reaching out to old clients. What we've been doing is literally we have 1, 2, 3, 4 people on our staff who are intermittently doing this, where they're just picking up the phone and they're calling clients whose matters are closed. They're not open. We don't have an active matter for them, nothing. And we're literally just saying, hey, John, this is Francisco from Keystone. How are you doing? Francisco from where? Keystone Law Firm. We finished up your whatever matter last year. Oh my gosh, yeah. Hi, how are you doing? Hey. And we just check in. We literally just say, hey, we realize the world is kind of crazy right now, and a lot of people are home, bored, and just, this is a chance for us to actually catch you at home and see how you're doing. No agenda for my call, literally just calling to check in with you. How are you doing? How's your spouse or whatever? If it was a divorce, how are your kids doing? Just check in and say, hi, how are you doing? Do we have good contact info for you? Is your address still the same? Your email still the same? Last time we checked, last time we heard from you, here's what the situation was. How do things look now? And just check in and record that into your database. We had a check in and here's what it was. For every 10 people that we do this with, we end up with a new project, just literally by accident. Literally by accident. How you doing? 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 And guess what? All of those, every single one of those clients is like, I can't believe you called me. I'm so glad you called me. You're amazing. I love you. Nobody's mad that we called. And then boom, that person's happy too because now they hire us and we get to fix their problem. And so there's new money coming in the door that way. And that's all we're doing. Just picking up the phone and saying hi. So I give you that as here, a nearly multi-million-dollar firm strategy. Sorry, it's not rocket science. It's unfortunately pretty ugly because nobody, we want to come up with a crazy, really crafty, cool, marketing campaign. Yeah, do that, right? When you have enough cash in the door, do that. If you need cash in the door, these are strategies that we are just we're hustling on these all day long, every day right now. And that's it. So here's the last thing. Because Mr. Green Lantern here, can't get his head on, there you go. He's now a little bit happier. He's now connected to his zombie body. And he's now going to go out and live his life and be the intrepid hero of all the people that we come into contact with. And he's going to go lead. And he's going to remember that I got into law to help people. And I'm passionate about that. And I'm not going to give that up. And I'm not going to let people who are giving up on their lives, people who are in despair, I'm not going to let them drag me down. I'm going to be the one that lifts them up. And I'm going to give them some optimism. I'm going to give them some passion. I'm going to lead them through this. Because he's now that person, I will mail any of you, I will drop in the mail a little Lego guy for you to remember this by. Because this is your calling. This is where you're at. And so go be the Lego person in your life. All right? All right, so that last lesson took a little longer than I thought, that bonus lesson. I believe that I can stick around. Yes, I don't have an appointment right now. So I will actually flip the system onto a Q&A portion. If anybody has questions, wants to ask anything, nothing's off limits. I will stick around until, as long as I can, until there's no more questions. You're on the computer, you just got to click something somewhere. I don't know what it looks like on your side. I'm guessing there's somewhere it says, click I have a question. And if you're just on the phone, then what you'll want to do is hit *6 on your phone. It'll actually put you in the queue. Let me just have a second. I got to take a sip of this. Anybody recognize what this quote is from? What movie is this from? Put it in the chat box. All right. When I say you're up, you will be unmuted, so you can just ask away. Let's see here. All right. All right. Good job, Becky. You learned how to click the button. Congratulations. All right. Let's see. Well, you guys are clicking the button and then not clicking the button. All right. I think Margaret, are you there? Nope. You don't have a question. Okay. You're just trying it out too. Cool. Neat, right? So if you guys want to do these kinds of video conferences, this is a free platform. I don't have a full subscription Zoom, and this is freeconferencecall.com. So everything you experienced using this, good, bad, ugly, or functional, this is all available in their free version. Feel free to go sign up and get your own account. Honestly, I haven't gotten a Zoom one just because I'm so used to using this when I know how to use it. And it works fine. It works good enough, I guess. I don't have any other questions in the queue. So if nothing, you guys go out there, be the leaders, be the green lantern in your community, make a difference, look for your Lego guy in the mail. All right, guys, have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and thanks for coming. Take care.